Welcome to part 2 of the Bloomburrow set review. We're going to go over red today, and we're starting off with Agate Assault. It is a 2 generic and a red sorcery. Choose one, Agate Assault deals 4 damage to target creature. That creature would die this turn, exile it instead, or exile target artifact. Wrote it as a C just because it's slow and sorcery speed. Sorcery speed and it costs 3 mana. Alania's Pathmaker, 3 generic and a red. Creature Auto Wizard. When Alania's Pathmaker enters, exile the top card of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. 4 mana, 4/2. You get like pseudo card advantage. It does let you play it until the end of your next turn, unlike, Irascible Wolverine, which is like a similar card. But I'll put it down as a C minus because of the stat line. 4 mana. Right, Artist Talent. 1 generic and a red enchantment class. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. 2 generic and a red, level 2. Non-creature spells you cast cost 1 generic less to cast, and then 2 generic and a red, level 3. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus 2 instead. So you have to combo this with non-combat damage sources. Like the best thing to combo this with would be the pinger, the 3 mana 1/4 that pings the opponent when you tap it. There are some other like sources of non-combat damage, like creatures that like enter and they do like 1 damage, like mostly for like to enable the black red life loss strategy. Some of those cards also inflict life loss instead, which doesn't get buffed by this. So I put this as a D minus. Anyway, alright. Blacksmith Talent Red, enchantment class. When Blacksmith Talent enters, create a colorless equipment artifact token named Sword with equip creature get +1/+1 and equip 2. 2 generic and a red, level 2. At the beginning of combat on your turn, attach target equipment you control to up to 1 target creature you control. And then 3 generic and a red, level 3. During your turn, equipped creatures you control have double strike and haste. There's actually not a lot of equipment in the set because of Valiant. They didn't want to make Valiant too easy to enable, so yeah, this is going to be D. And I put that like in the D because if you really need like the equipment from this to trigger your Valiant, even though the equip cost is actually rather overpriced. Valiant. Blooming Blast is a 1 generic and a red. Instant, gift a treasure. Blooming Blast deals 2 damage to target creature. If the gift was prominent, Blooming Blast also deals 3 damage to that creature's controller. So this is kind of like an interesting take on things like Searing Blaze. But let's see, let me look quickly. Searing Blaze. So it's like Searing Blaze was like a similar type of card that like deals damage to a creature and a player. This one, like you actually could have both targets or whatever. But anyways, so here it's like um instead of needing like landfall to get like the damage, you would need to like gift them the treasure. Most of the time you're not going to gift them the treasure unless it's like late game or the when like the treasure doesn't matter, or if it would be lethal, like I guess if there's some point, like which would probably be like around like turn 5 or 6 anyways where this becomes lethal. But I had it as a C. I don't know, like I think 2 damage will actually hit a lot of, or I could kill a lot of the creatures in the format because like the creatures are smaller, so like it actually doesn't feel that bad to like spend 2 mana to do 2 damage. Then it has like the upside that you can do like slightly more than them with by giving them a treasure. Alright, Brambleguard Captain, 3 generic and a red. Creature Mouse Soldier. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +X+0 until end of turn, where X is Brambleguard Captain's power. So this is like and it's a 2/3. So this is one of those cards that would, benefit from having equipment on it because it would give you like a higher buff. I mean, you could also just buff it with like a spell to give it like more power temporarily, but I don't know. It's also like a 4 mana 2/3. It's not as good when you're like on the draw because this type of effect. It's like, oh, it's much better when you're in the play. So I put it as a C. Brazen Collector, 1 generic and a red. Creature Raccoon Rogue. First strike. Whenever Brazen Collector attacks, add red. Till end of turn, you don't lose his mana as steps and phases in. So it's not quite as good as like the first strike Lifelinker in white. It because it has like a different ability and 1 less toughness. But I mean, this is kind of like a red mana dork because you just have to be like aggressive or actually be able to use this for mana and like. So I put it down as a C plus, just because I mean the first strike will probably mean it gets in at least like 1 or 2 attacks before it can't attack anymore. Because again, like the creatures seem to have like lower toughness format than normal, so they're kind of small. I mean, so Byway Barterer, 2 generic and a red. Creature Raccoon Rogue Menace. Whenever you expend 4, you may discard your hand. If you do, draw 2 cards. So explain what expend does. Expend numbers means you spent like that total mana to cast spells during a turn. So like expend 4 means you spent 4 or more mana or to cast a spell or cast spells. So it doesn't need to be 1 spell. It could be like you could cast a 2 mana spell and then like a 3 mana spell, and that would count as expend 4. So I mean, there's a 3/3 menace on the floor, and when you're empty-handed or your cards are really bad, you can do the expend 4 to draw 2 and discard your hand and draw 2, and it does also like fuel surveil, like being able to discard. Sometimes you might want to actually discard, not discard surveil, but it enables threshold. I mean, so I put that as a B minus. Just because it is like a somewhat aggressive card early, and then like late game you can get card advantage. Alright, Conduct Electricity, 4 generic and a red. Instant, Conduct Electricity deals 6 damage to target creature and 2 damage to up to 1 target creature token. We had this before in the last set, Outlaws of Thunder Junction. It was called Trick Shot. People weren't as excited there. I mean, here, like, there are a lot of tokens, but, like, they're also getting, like, I mean, the thing is, like, the cost of the token is functionally free, so I'm putting this as a D, basically base removal, because, it's like 5 mana. Coruscation, Mage, 1 generic in the red. Creature, Auto Wizard, Offspring 2. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature deals 1 damage each opponent. It's 2/2. So if you Offspring it, you're spending 4 mana to get a 2/2 and a 1/1. If you actually Offspring it, it's kind of like Gutter Snipe, but it's like a 3/3 over 2 bodies for 4. I put it down as a C plus, even just because I think like the prowess archetype will be like somewhat like supported, and this is also helps with like the life loss, the opponent life loss synergy, because like pinging them will trigger those opponent life loss payoff cards. So Dragonhawk, Fate's Tempest, 3 generic, 2 red, legendary creature bird dragon flying. Whenever Dragonhawk enters or attacks, exile the top X card of their library, where X is the number of creatures you control with power 4 or greater. You may play those cards until your next end step. At the beginning of your next end step, Dragonhawk deals 2 damage to each opponent for each of those cards that are still exiled. I mean, this is like your typical mythic red dragon that does something really cool when it enters or attacks. Yeah, it's like not quite, Bone Horde. It's not quite Bone Horde Dracosaur in terms of like unbeatability, but I put it down as an A just because. I mean, it potentially you can play like more than one card off of this, like depending on how many like creatures you have, like power 4 or greater. And I guess instead of getting like a 31 dino or a treasure, you it's like worse than Bonehorn Dracosaur, but Bonehorn Dracosaur was also like totally like class of its own type of card. Right, Emberheart Challenger, 1 generic and a red. Creature Mouse Warrior, haste, prowess, Valiant. Whenever Emberheart Challenger becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, exile top card of library. Until end of turn, you may play that card. Um, yeah. I mean, it's got haste and prowess. I mean, that's pretty aggressive, and it rewards you for targeting it by getting another card off of it, even if it's only temporary. So I put it down as a B plus. Like it'll definitely get in there, do some damage. Like the prowess makes it like kind of risky for your opponent to block it, and then like like the Valiant, also like rewards you for targeting it on combat tricks. So Festival of Embers, 4 generic, and the red enchantment. During your turn, you may cast instant and sorcery spells from your graveyard by paying 1 life in addition to their other costs. Card or token would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile instead. And then 1 generic and a red, sacrifice Festival of Embers. This has like some kind of anti-synergy with, the forage threshold stuff, because now like your cards, it's like I think the play pattern with this is you need to like fill your graveyard with instants and sorceries. Um like either by casting them or surveilling in the graveyard, and then you play this Festival of Embers and you need to play them, and it's actually sort of reminds me of a kind of slow version of whatever that the storm card was, the one that gives flashback. Hey, there is a how's it going? But the one that gives flashback to your entire graveyard or whatever, and so I just put it as a D minus. I don't think you're actually supposed to play this in limited, but you can certainly try if you want. I wouldn't. Flamecash Gecko, 1 generic and a red. Creature Lizard Warlock. When Flamecash Gecko enters, if an opponent lost life this turn, add black, red, and then 1 generic and a red. Discard a card, draw a card. And I put it as a C. Like, it's sort of like Hidden Herbalists, kind of. It has like a different trigger than that card did. I mean, it's in red also, which I guess is different. This is Hidden Herbalist, was like a 2/2 that generated 2 mana. This is also a 2/2 that generates 2 mana. This has like looting, which not looting. It has rummaging, which is like a good late game ability. And I mean, 2 mana obviously is like kind of annoying, but I understand that's at least you can either trade us. But like you can activate it, I guess however you have the mana. I mean, I do like the synergy there. Is that it's like the vampire from Midnight Hunt that like generated mana if the opponent, when it enters, if the opponent lost life this turn, and then it also had rummage. Like that vampire, it was like a 4 mana 4/3 that generated 3 mana, and then the rummage cost 3 mana. So it's like it had like that was actually kind of a cool design. But okay, Frilled Spark Shooter, 3 generic and a red. Creature Lizard Archer, Menace Reach. Frilled Spark Shooter enters with a +1/+1 counter if the opponent lost life this turn. I mean, a 3/3 Menace Reach is not like good, but I guess a 4/4 Menace Reach is good. But I put it down as a C. Like, this is obviously going to be a card that's better on the play than it is on the draw. Because it's more likely to enter as like a 4/4 if you're on the play, or curving out and such. Okay, Harnesser of Storms, 2 generic and a red. Whenever you cast a non-creature Otter Wizard, whenever you cast a non-creature or Otter spell, you may exile a top card of your library. Until end of turn, you may play that card. This ability triggers only once each turn, so 1/4. So, I mean, it's like a 1/4 in red, which I guess is a little weird. I think usually in red you want to be more aggressive. This is kind of like a slower card advantage thing. I mean, if you're really big into the like the blue red non-creature or other spell other deck, this gets better, but it it's like the distinction is you only play the card until the end of this turn, and it only triggers once each turn. So like there may be like some situations where you cast an instant on your opponent's turn and you don't actually want to use the ability because you might exile like a land or a sorcery or something or a creature. And I mean, it's like you really want to be like using the ability on your turn because then you could cast more things or play the land. I put it as a C. I don't know. If they put like some other ability on it, like a creature ability on it, I would rate it higher. But I just think it's this feels like a little rough. But Heartfire Hero, 1 red, creature mouse soldier, valiant. Whenever Heartfire Hero becomes a target of spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it. When Heartfire Hero dies, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. It's 1/1. Hey, Yargle. But yeah, I put it at a C. Again, it's a 1 mana 1/1. You will need to like invest some number of things into it. It only deals damage to the opponent when it dies. So this is not like one of those things that like pings like one of your opponent's creatures on the way out. Like I think it's just because like the floor of the card is not great. I mean, I'd honestly maybe say it's like less than this, but I don't know, maybe there's some really good Valiant deck where it gets big pretty quickly. It also only triggers once a turn, but still, like I think it just depends on maybe the way you have the deck set up. Like if you have like the really good number of targeted spells or abilities. Hearthborn Battler, 2 generic and a red. Creature Lizard Warlock Haste. Whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, Hearthborn Battler deals 2 damage to target opponent. It's a 2/3. Get a gold Dracon, that's a good one. But let's see. As a C plus. Because I mean a hasty 2/3 for 3 is not great, but the fact that it triggers off both players is what makes it good. Because like your opponent actually can't like double spell when like they don't want to double spell because then they take the 2 damage, and if you're double spelling it makes them take damage. Like, and again, it works well with like the whole life loss and the life loss strategy, opponent life loss. No, that's just how all sets are now. Gold Dracon, they have more uncommons and commons now. Hired Claw, red, creature, lizard, mercenary. Whenever you attack with one or more lizards, Hired Claw deals 1 damage to target opponent. 1 generic and a red. Put a +1/+1 counter on Hired Claw. Activate this ability only if the opponent has lost life this turn and only 1 each turn. Alright, I'm putting this as a B- just because of the like it has synergy with the whole lizard tribal thing, and it also the life loss enabling. I mean, it's not super exciting by itself because it is just like a 1 mana 1/2, but there's going to be like situations where, you know, even if you draw this late or something, maybe you're dealing damage with like other things, and then you can use that as like your opportunity to, I guess, to spend the mana as grow. So, but I'm mostly like interested in the fact that like yeah, that it can this passive trigger, and it's like the passive trigger plus like the activate that rating. Okay, Hoarder's Overflow, 1 generic and a red. Enchantment, when Hoarder's Overflow enters and whenever you expend 4, you put a stash counter on it. And then 1 generic and a red, sacrifice Hoarder's Overflow. Discard your hand and then draw a card equal to the number of stash counters on Hoarder's Overflow. If that's D, this is gonna be like a terrible card. I mean, I guess the very minimum is that it has 1 stash counter, but like this will be a pretty rough card to like top deck because you're, you know, it's because you need to actually be expending to put the stash counters onto it. I don't know. It doesn't seem great. I just remember like the equivalent of this card in other sets usually did not play very well, like connecting the dots. And this was had an easier condition to get the count. I guess this is actually doing counters and exiles cards. Still, it's like a similar idea. Okay, Kindle Spark Duo, 2 generic and a red. Creature Lizard Otter. Kindle Spark Duo deals 1 damage to target opponent. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, untap Kindle Spark Duo. It's a 1/3. I think the closest comparison I can find here is Thermo Alchemist, which, you know, that was a little different because that only cost 2 mana, but it also only triggered on instant and sorceries. And I guess it was a defender. I don't think you're really going to be attacking with this card, but maybe there's some scenario where you want to attack with it. But I mean, it's a 1/3. It does like theoretically discourage the opponent from attacking you with like 1/1s. And then there's like some threat. I think the thing that's like exciting here is again, it's the whole opponent lost life this turn synergy, because this enables it pretty easily because you don't even need to like attack to just need to tap it. And there's gonna be some decks that are capable of like untapping this, you know, multiple times in a game. Like they might be able to untap it like 5 or 6 times a game. I mean, that damage is going to add up. I put it down as a C plus. Okay, Manifold Mouse. 1 generic and a red. Creature Mouse Soldier, Offspring 2. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target mouse you control gains your choice of double strike or trample until end of turn. So like the body on this isn't very good, and clearly you don't really want to target itself with the double strike because it's a 1/2, right? But there's mice that have like bigger bodies, like 3 power mice or whatever, which makes this better. So you just need to like combo this with like bigger mice or like pump spells or whatever. But again, this is kind of one of those cards that like plays better. Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, because it triggers. You can trigger on your opponent's turn the life loss. But like, so this one is like, I think I put it a C plus. Again, this is gonna vary a lot more, like based on play versus draw kind of thing, because again, because only triggers on the beginning of combo your turn type of thing, and usually, and like we had cards like that before that didn't have a body, like Blood Mist or whatever. Then that card was also kind of like hit or miss. But I mean, this has a body, and then if you offspring it, yes, you could give double strike two things, or trample the two things, or double strike and trample the same thing. I guess assuming they're mice. It buffs mice. So Might of the Meek. There's definitely a lot of ways to pump the power to make that card better. Might of the Meek red instant. Target creature gains trample until end of turn. It also gets +1/+0 until end of turn if you control a mouse. Draw a card. Um, Put it down as a C. I think it's fine filler. Like it's good in the two archetypes. Like two archetypes, which would be the red blue prowess. They want like a cheap card that cantrips, and then the red white valiant deck, which they just want like a combat trick. I think it's better than Defiant Strike. I think. Well, I mean, the thing is, Defiant Strike was also basically kind of hobbled by the fact that like white usually doesn't care about like this type of thing, or they don't really care about this, but like red and blue are interested in this type of thing. Alright, Playful Shove, one generic in the red. Sorcery, Playful Shove deals 1 damage to any target. Draw a card. Is a sorcery. I mean, I think the closest comparison is Flick a Coin, which was a common, but cost 3 mana, but it was an instant. It also made a treasure. This doesn't make a treasure. There's some differentiations here. I think the main place you want to play this is like like a red blue prowess deck. You can also target your own creature um, just to trigger Valiant, which is reasonable. It doesn't make the treasure, which is kind of the problem, so I put it down as a C. Like I think there was definitely a big there was a lot more value here because like the treasure here enabled your like bargain stuff and also your color fixing, whereas this one is like doesn't that. Yeah, I mean there's some. I mean there's probably like the closest comparison to like Ryle, because but you can target your opponent's stuff. All right, Quake Tusk Boar. 3 generic and 2 red. Creature Elemental Boar. Reach, Trample, Haste, 5/5. So this is like a upgraded version of Charging Montessor, which was 4 generic in the red, Trample, Haste. This one doesn't have a double red. Like this one is, you can actually theoretically splash this card, which sometimes people did. They just splash this card. This one you can be double red. I mean, it's also one of like in this set. This is like one of the biggest things that you'll see because most of like the other creatures are around like 3/3 or something. So like this is pretty big. It kind of just eats every flyer, or the majority of the flyers that aren't like rares and stuff that get eaten by this. So I had it down as a B. I mean, it's just like it's a lot of damage, and I mean, there may be like some scenario where you do need to block with it because of reach. A Rabid Gnaw, 1 generic and a red. Instant target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Then it deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. So this is basically ambuscade, but it's red now. This became so like this is like ambuscade, except it became red and it cost 1 mana less, and now it's an uncommon. But I put it at C plus. It's gonna be pretty good in the. I mean, just pretty. I think it's like good in general because like ambuscade is like a good effect, and I think especially with like Valiant, it's gonna be better because like Valiant really likes like these type of things where it's like, oh, it's not just like, oh, I'm pumping my creature to get the Valiant. I'm actually playing a removal spell that triggers Valiant. That's exciting. So Raccoon Rallier, 1 generic and a red. Creature Raccoon Bard. Tap target creature you control gains haste until end of turn. Activate only a sorcery. It's 2/2. We had this card before. It was called Axguard Cavalry, and it was fine. Not super exciting. It's better in this set because of Valiant. Like in Kaldheim, this is basically filler, but in this set, it's better because of Valiant. So I put it down as a C. It's because of Valiant. I guess this one says only as a sorcery. I guess that's so that you can't trigger Valiant on the opponent's turn. Understandable. And also maybe for like online reasons, like because most of the time, like giving haste to your opponent's creature, like giving haste to your creature on your opponent's turn doesn't usually matter unless like your creature has like a tap ability or something. Okay, Reptilian Recruiter, 3 generic and 2 red. Creature Lizard Warrior Trample. When Reptilian Recruiter enters, choose target creature. If that creature's power is 2 or less, or if you control another lizard, gain control of that creature at the end of turn, untap it, and it gains haste until end of turn. So, I mean, this is like um enthralling Victor, which was similar. This was like a 4 mana 3/2 that can only target a power 2 or less creature. This can theoretically target anything if you have a lizard. If you're going deep onto like the lizard tribal, this can be a big deal. I mean, it's not the best body just by itself. It's a 5 mana 4/2 trample, but I mean, active treason could open up some damage there. So I put it down as a C plus. But I mean, I think the assumption is like you're going to be playing like other lizards, so you can grab anything with it. There's also not like from what I could see when I did the set review earlier, there wasn't like a lot of ways like sacrifice a creature, but this is mostly just like rating it around like aggressive. But all right, Roughshod Duo, 2 generic and a red. Creature Mouse Raccoon Trample. Whenever you expend 4, target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains trample at the end of turn. So this has like the dreaded 3/2 for 3 stat line that I warn people about. I guess it does have the expend 4, so like you could go like Roughshod Duo and then play a 4 drop. It attacks as a 4/3, or I mean you can pump anything you control with it. So I mean that helps, but I'm gonna put it down as a C minus just because I don't like the 3 mana 3/2 stat line that much. I mean, and then I guess maybe people say like, but what about that 4 mana 4/2, the 5 mana 4? That was a little different. Sazakab's Brew, 1 generic and a red. Instant gift a tapped fish. At an additional cost to cast a spell, discard a card. Target player draws 2 cards. If the gift was promised, target creature you control gets +2/+0 until end turn. So this is like you know, thrilling or whatever, thrilling discovery or thrilling discovery. No, not thrilling discovery, but the instant speed rummage thing or whatever. This one. So the reason it says target player draws 2 cards, it's so that if you do the gift the tapped fish, um and then you target a creature, like it doesn't completely get countered by the creature getting blown up and stuff. Hey, there, yeah, it's kind of thrill of possibility. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Um, I put it as a C minus. It's like I guess it does help with threshold because it puts 2 cards as the graveyard for threshold. I mean, I don't. I mean, there might be some situation where like the pump part of this is good. You use it as a like maybe they block your 3/3 with the 1/4 or something like that, and then you do this, and you give them a fish, but the fish. I mean, maybe you don't care about the fish because you got rid of their 1/4. It's kind of strange. But I mean, it'll also probably see play in the blue red prowess deck because they just want things that let them get more cards, even though it doesn't really net. It doesn't net cards. It just selection, I guess. All right, Season of the Bold, 3 generic, 2 red sorcery. You may choose up to 5 paw worth of modes. You may choose the same mode more than once. In a paw, 1. Create a tap treasure token. 2 paw. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play them. And then 3 paw. Until the end of your next turn, whenever you cast a spell, Season of the Bold deals 2 damage to up to 1 target creature. Okay, so I think this is like not great. I mean, I guess you can look at it as like a bootleg version of the card from like Throne of Eldraine, the enter the whatever enter the wait, enter the wilds, escape to the wild. Okay, but this one also like is just different because it also lets you play an additional land. So it's like you could like if you exile a land off of this or 2 lands. You didn't play landed. You could play 2 lands. I mean, yes, it goes until ending. I guess you could play it as like as a bootleg version of Escapes of the Wilds. I think the scenario most people are gonna do is like they do like this part and then this part. And I guess if you were preparing your hand appropriately and you have like a lot of cheap cantrips, you can use that to like work through the opponent's board. But I don't know. Like I'm thinking like at this point in the game when you have this card, like you might you may not necessarily have like a bunch of cheap spells to play off of this, but that's why I put it as a C plus. Definitely feels a little worse than the other seasons. Alright, Steam Path Charger, 1 generic in the red. Creature Lizard Warlock, Offspring 2. When this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to target player, and it's a 2/1. I put this as a D because I don't like the stats on this. Yes, it does enable the opponent life loss thing, but I don't know. It's like I just don't think it's really exciting. Like either way, it's like a 2/1 that dies in the 1 damage to a player, or a 2/1 and a 1/1 for 4 that dies into 2 damage to a player. I guess like I mean the thing is it's not. I mean you could like I guess chump block with the one. It's maybe there's like some go wide strategy that you're trying to enable with this, sure, but I don't really like the actual stats of Buzz. Yeah, the ping is triggering the limited, basically, or not the limit, but it's triggering the bloodlust. Yeah. But Storm Splitter, 3 generic and a red creature auto wizard haste. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a token as a copy of Storm Splitter. Exile that token at the beginning of the next end step. This is like a very weird card. Because it's only making a 1/4. I guess the idea is you would I guess cast a bunch of instants during your opponent's end step. And then I mean no, I know it has haste, I get it, but I'm just saying like maybe you cast a couple instants during your opponent's end step, and then you untap, and then you cast a couple more spells during your turn, and then you cast like a pump spell, like a team pump spell or something like that, and it's really cool, but I don't know. I think this is actually meant as like a combo card for constructed, and not really like meant for draft or whatever. So I put it as a D. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's just like the 1/4 is also not like really like super exciting. I don't know. It's like I guess maybe it would be broken if it was like a 2/3 haste, but still. Okay, Sunspine links 2 generic and 2 red creature elemental cat. Players can't gain life. Damage can't be prevented. When Sunspine links enters, it deals damage equal to each player equals the number of non-basic links the player controls. So like this trigger is likely to not do anything in draft or seal. Maybe it does like one have like one of the non-basics that sticks around and does something, but or you're playing like the Uncharted Haven. Okay, if you're playing a bunch of Uncharted Haven, it is like a symmetrical. It's a totally symmetrical effect. Um, it nerfs like if your opponent's playing the white black life gain deck, it hurts them because they can't gain the life anymore. It also like turns off your life gain stuff. I mean, again, it's symmetrical. This is basically just like a constructed plant, so I guess if you just want like a 5 mana, sorry, not a 4 mana 5/4, that's fine. I am just gonna put it as a C, but I really think it's more C minus, the unlimited, because like a just I don't know, like 4 mana 5/4 is not really like that insane. Hey, oh my god, thank you much for the raid. Oh my god, I'm gonna shout out to Caleb Durward. Hey, thank you very much. Hope you had a great stream. Thank you very much. I can't pause the stream, or I can't figure out how to do it, but thank you very much. Yeah, let me give you the fox shake. Super fox you. Ain't there an actual hee-haw, Patrick? And how's it going? Just doing the set review, going through red right now. Thank you very much for the fox work. I appreciate it. But I hope you had a great stream. Thank you very much. I appreciate the raid. But yeah. We're just going through red right now. And for those just joining, my name's MercurioBlue, and I streamed on Twitch for the last 7 years, and I stream Magic stuff. So anyway, let's go back. So we were talking about 4 mana 5/4. Now we're looking at this is like, so take out the trash, 1 generic and a red instant. Take out the trash, deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If you control a raccoon, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. So this is like volcanic spite. Or I mean, it's not exactly volcanic spite, because volcanic spite puts the card on the bottom of your library, which is like an important distinction. I mean, but this always like gives you the option. This one only works if you have a raccoon, but like discarding a card, like it has more value discarding a card in this set because of threshold. Or and then there's like a couple flashback cards which also are like if you discard a flashback card, it's like it's value basically. But every red deck wants to take out the trash. I put it as a C. Just I don't know because you can't like always do the discard the thing. It's like kind of dependent on oh I have the raccoon, but you'd be a C plus because it deal. Yeah, no, that's fair. It could actually be higher. It it kills all the format. Yeah, I did. I am going to update the notes for like my little personal note. No, yeah. No, I don't know. I'm actually was a little bit confused about the no foxes because of when they did the whatever it was like the let me here now I'm getting a little distracted but yeah this card made me think that was going to be more foxes in standard, but then also I think it's just worded like this so that you can't exile another where they don't want you doing the O-ring thing where you exile like O-ring this or whatever because it's not great. Only LSV gets to do O-ring shenanigans. Okay, so Teapot Slinger, 3 generic and a red, creature Raccoon Warrior, Menace. Whenever you expend 4, Teapot Slinger deals 2 damage to each opponent. And it's a 3 mana, 3/4 Menace, not super exciting. The expend 4 ability does trigger the opponent life loss synergy. Yeah, exile, how's it going? They put it as a C just because. I mean, it is a pretty reasonably large body because it is a 3 mana, 3/4 menace, but Expend isn't looking like super good as a mechanic from what I've seen, but you know, could be wrong. I mean, I think my biggest takeaway of like the limited format is that I think I had rated removal a little lower than normal because of all the ETBs. That's 4 mana, you know. I'm just saying, maybe because it's like the because I mean I think there was something that was explained, not explained, but like when they showed banishing light is a common now, and it used to be an uncommon. So that's like maybe like implies like oh removal's not as good as it used to be, whatever. Like I mean removal I mean it's not as good in the sense that like I just remember like when, you know, murder used to be like a common and then they got like upshifted to uncommon for a while because they really were going for the it's more because it changed the boosters, you know. Oh right, they need to make removal more common, right? That was part of it. Yeah, they did. I think they did mention that removal spells need to be. But yeah, yeah. Maybe there's a thing is like there's actually like some secret thing that makes the expend 4 better. Is like you just fill your deck full of 4 drops. I mean, you can also just fill your deck with 2 and 3 drops. That also works. Or 2 and 3 drops that cantrip. That works. So Valley Flamecaller. 2 generic and the red creature lizard warlock. If a lizard, mouse, otter, or raccoon you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals that much damage plus 1 instead. And it's a 3/3. So this isn't quite like oh like adding 1 power to all of these creatures or whatever. It's like you have to like take into account all the creatures that like ETB and do a damage. Also, like the red duo that taps to ping the opponent, it will actually benefit from this card as well. So, I mean, I don't know. This is definitely one of those cards I think people are gonna see it, and then they're gonna like it's just gonna be like kind of confusing to like understand it in like paper because it's like, oh, right, it is basically like adding like one power to all of those creature types, but then again, it's like it's actually deeper, a little deeper than that. But then it also has a little bit of it's not quite the same as adding one power because it makes double block. Because I remember, does anybody remember like how double blocking works with like Obosh? It's not quite as good. Yeah, it adds complexity to trample. Like City on Fire doesn't work the way you want it to with like trample, which is something to like also know. Like if anybody remembers like City on Fire, but yeah, City on Fire with trample, which actually it has I've seen that come up before. But yeah, I put this as a C plus. I mean, maybe that's a little low, but I also hate the Wing Sphere. Yeah, no, there is a pinger. There's a 3 mana 1/3 that taps the ping and it untaps when you do a. Yeah, there's a few creatures that ETB and they deal like a damage or something like that. There's also some creatures that deal life loss when they enter the battlefield, which would not combo with this, but I don't they fit this type. Yeah, there's a lot of lizard players. Yeah, there could be more lizards than I thought of. Valley Rally, too generic in the red. Instant gift of food. Creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. If the gift was promised, target creature you control gains first strike until end of turn. So this is like Burn Bright, but you do have the option to also add some survivability to one of your creatures by giving it first strike and by giving them a food. Um, Actually, something that's really important to note that if you gift a food with this card and then they kill the creature in response, um, like the spell will get countered. So because you actually targeted one of your creatures, so that's something to be aware of. Like so. I don't know. I mean, it does seem like you're going to need this for the white red rabbit deck kind of bad, so I put it as a C because you are going to need either this or the rabbit response. But yeah, I mean, it's reasonable to trade in the food. You just have to keep that in mind that like they can counter the entire spell by killing your creature in response. Then you wouldn't get the +2/+0 to your team. I mean, okay, War Squeak, red, enchantment aura, enchant creature. When War Squeak enters, target creature an opponent controls can't block this turn. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has haste. So this is like Hammer Hand. It's slightly better because of the whole Valiant thing, but still, usually this card wasn't like worth a card unless you were like very, very aggro or whatever. So I put it as a D. But I guess if you just have like a ton of Valiant triggers, then it's better, but still. I think this card is also like kind of a trap card. People play it too often in limited when it's actually not like good in their deck. Whisker Quill Scribe, one generic in the red. Creature Mouse Citizen Valiant. Whenever Whisker Quill Scribe becomes a target of the spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, you may discard a card if you do draw a card. I mean, it's 2 for 2. You can target it and rummage. I don't know, like early on, if you're targeting it, you may not have to discard any of your stuff. It's fine, just fine filler. You'll play it. I'll put it as a C minus. And then last red card, Wildfire Howl, 1 generic and 2 red, sorcery, gift a card. Wildfire Howl deals 2 damage to each creature if the gift was promised. Instead, Wildfire Howl deals 1 damage to any target and 2 damage each creature. So it's like the play pattern here is that it's like mostly going to be a 3 mana deal 2 to every creature, but if your opponent has an X3 or they happen to be at 1 life, then you can ping them. Or I guess also if you want to play your life loss matters lizard after this resolves, like you can give them the card. I don't know if you really want to do that, but you could, or ping them. But I mean, ping the opponent and give them the card, and then play your lizard. The ETB, but I mean, and there is also like the strategy where you make some attack into their blockers, and maybe they block, and then their creatures have damage marked on them, and then Wildfire Howl kills the creatures away. And like if your creature's gonna die anyways, your X2 send them in. But like it's kind of like a gamble. Like if you think that they're gonna block with like their X3, their X4 or something like that, and after, but yeah, usually this type of card is like not when you want a main deck. I think it's a little bit better in this format because of all like the rabbit tokens and whatnot. Like all the rabbit tokens, they just get cleaned up by it, so I put it as a C. So it's not like usually like this type of card, like I said, is like not like great or whatever. They had like the black -2/-2, for example, and you usually don't want to like the 3 mana black -2/-2 everything. You usually don't want to play that card in best of 1 anyways, and if you're playing best of 3, just sideboard it. But I think this will actually, like I said, it'll be better because of rabbit tokens. Will make it more likely that there's like 1/1s that die to this, and creatures being a little bit smaller than normal. Okay, well that was the red part of the Bloomburrow limited set review. Thank you very much for watching, and thanks again to Caleb Durrell for the huge raid earlier. I really appreciate it. And if you want to watch more Magic content, please check out the stream at twitch.tv/MercurioBlue, and be sure to check out the next part of the set review, where we'll be talking about the green cards.